Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Sorry for no videos yesterday. Things came up and I wasn't able to get to them. However, we'll be talking about the California fire in Los Angeles here and the Palisades. And there's a lot of interesting things that's been going on that maybe you guys probably should know, considering the fact that California is not this great and amazing haven that people think it ought to be. Of course, anybody that knows about California hates it, so I digress. Well, what we have here is a whole slew of things. First, we're going to go off with the LA Fire Department chief, which is so happens to be the very first woman to be the LA Fire Department chief. Well, that's all and great and all, and kudos to you, but there's a small problem. She's very woke. She's part of the DEI, and her whole goal was to get more DEI or more women into the fire department. And this is the result of everything, right? So without further ado, my friends, here's a video.
Inspired.
She took time out of her already busy schedule to tell us about her vision for the department's future, one that includes a 3-year strategic plan to increase diversity.
People ask me, well, what number are you looking for? I say, I'm not looking for a number. It's never enough.
Out of 3,300 city firefighters, only 115 are women right now. She's already looking at ways to change that. She's quick to point out that doing so has a greater purpose, attracting the best and brightest for the job.
They feel included, they feel valued, and they feel part of a cohesive team.
The chief also checks another box when it comes to inclusivity and diversity at this department. She's a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
That just kind of opens the door of people that thought, wow, I didn't even know that was an opportunity for me.
We are hosting our new employee orientation, and our focus is to teach our new employees for them to understand cultural competency, identify implicit and unconscious bias, and be aware of the importance of us having a diverse and inclusive workforce.
Diversity is important because the different people bring different lenses to their job, and those different ideas, those different lenses are important to have the best practices for our industry.
We have people.
Geez, I want to talk about my white privilege so badly. I graduated North Hollywood High with a 1.7 GPA. I could not find a job. I walked to a fire station in North Hollywood. I was 19. I was living in the garage of my family home. My mom was on welfare and food stamps, and I said, can I get a job as a fireman? And they said, no, because you're not black, Hispanic, or a woman. We'll see in about 7 years. And I went to a construction site and dug ditches and picked up garbage for the next 7 years. I got a letter in the mail sent to my father's house saying, your time has come to do the written exam for the LA Fire Department. I took it, and I was standing in line, and I had a young woman of color standing behind me in line, and I said, just out of curiosity, when did you sign up to become a fireman? Because I did it, or a person, 7 years ago, and she said, Wednesday. That is an example of my white privilege.
So, yeah, it isn't too great. She is very woke. She really puts that out of control. See, this is the problem that we have here, right? And I 1 second here. 1 second. I want you ladies to understand this. All right, the ladies that watch my channel, the very few. I want you guys to understand this. This makes you women look very, very bad. Because when we end up having the very first woman to enter anything, right? There usually has to be a standard. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean all women are like this, right? But when you have the very first woman in something, especially something as big as this, and there is a huge fire, and everything's burning to the ground, things are not getting done, etc., etc., it doesn't seem to look too great here, and she has a lot of this on her plate. Now, to be fair, she does not have much to work with. And I'm going to be showing that to you onto why, even though the DEI is terrible, it's not entirely her fault here. What we have here is from the New York Post saying LA residents rip Mayor Karen Bass as Palisades wildfire burns homes to the ground. You're useless. It goes on to say furious Los Angeles residents tore into their absent Mayor Karen Bass, who was 700 miles away in Africa on a political trip as raging fires turned the city of Los Angeles into an apocalyptic hellscape Tuesday. Resign? Why are you in Ghana? One person commented on X post by Bass's office, giving updates on the wildfire. Goes on to say Bass traveled with 3 other people to Ghana for the inauguration of President John Dramani Mahama, who was elected last year. Hey Karen, how's Ghana? Another person asked. LA, you ask? Yeah, it's burning to the effing ground, but it's better you're not here anyways because you're useless. Others demanded that Bass, who took office in 2022, resign from her post. You're a disgrace and embarrassment to our country. One commented, you need to resign, you incompetent fool. Another says, LA developer Rick Caruso, who lost the 2022 mayoral race against Bass, called out his former opponent for failure of leadership and absence during the escalating situation. It's all about leadership management that we're seeing a failure of, and all these residents are paying the ultimate price for that. Goes on to say here, when asked why there wasn't water and fire hydrants after emergency responders battling the growing blazes, report bone dry hydrants, Caruso pointed the blame directly at Bass. I think you should start asking, why don't you call the mayor who's out of the country and ask her? Get an answer from her. Yeah, so people are rightfully angry at this woman because for whatever reason, she thinks it's a better idea to go to Africa and Ghana and celebrate a African president while her own city is burning literally to the ground. This is Democratic leadership for you. I don't know what else to tell you. This is Democratic leadership. Of course, we have more unfortunate news because LA Mayor Karen Bass cuts fire department funding by nearly $20 million. It's technically $17.6 million, but if you round it up, it's $20 million. Months before wildfires turned city into a hellscape. The Los Angeles Fire Department had its budget cut by a staggering $17.6 million this financial year. Records show as fire crews continue to battle out of control blazes ravaging the city of Angels. The drastic decrease in funding for the fire department was the second largest cut to come out of embattled Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass' 2024 to 2025 fiscal year budget, according to city figures. The police budget, meanwhile, increased by $126 million, a graphic shared by LA City Councilor Kenneth Major shows. Bass had initially wanted to cut the fire department by even more, a staggering $23 million. So not only did she not only she fail in her actual objectives here, her expectations, she wanted to cut it even more. She wanted to cut it by an extra $4 to $5 million. So that way, give or take, because for whatever reason, we don't know why, because she's an idiot. Democratic leadership for you. The details on Bass's budget slashing resurfaced as the mayor faced widespread backlash Wednesday after it was revealed that she was away in Africa for the Ghana president's inauguration, even as wind whipped wildfires turned parts of her city into an apocalyptic hellscape. So, yeah, guys, I hate to tell you this, but this is just something that you have to understand here. This is all Democrats. This is a Democratic state. You can't blame Republicans for this. You all have the leadership of Democrats doing this. This woman is leaving the city to Africa, to another place that is not even her country, to celebrate the inauguration of another president in another country, and she decides to cut $17.6 million to the fire department. Added to issue, she wanted to do more. She wanted to do more cuts on the fire department. She just didn't get it done. What are we doing here? What reality are we living here when we're allowing these insane people to be mayor? What is going on? And it gets worse, guys. This is the reason why I said it's not entirely on the police chief's complete fault, because when your fire department is cut by $23 million or $17.6 million, there's not much you can do. Even if you are a Republican person or whatever, exclude the DEI. Of course, DEI didn't help, but it's not going to help the fact that, you have your funding cut by a whole whopping amount. So you can't blame too much on this, to be honest. And then, of course, it gets worse, right? Firefighters running out of water as fires tear through Los Angeles. Yeah, that's right. California firefighters are running out of water as they desperately battle 3 rapidly growing wildfires threatening huge areas around Los Angeles, with emergency responders reporting bone-dry hydrants. Yeah, so that isn't good. And of course, Trump warned about this, right? Trump is the Messiah. He is the Houdini of everything. He knows what's going on. And he says Trump warned about the California fires years ago. Goes on to say, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has done a terrible job of forest management. I told him from the first day we met that he must clean his forest floors regardless of what his bosses, the environmentalists, demand of him. Must also do burns and cut fire stoppers. Every year, as the fires rage and California burns, it is the same thing, and then he comes to the federal government for dollars for help. No more. Get your act together, Governor. You don't see close to the level of burn in the other states, but our teams are working well together in putting these massive and mini fires out. Great firefighters. Also, open up the ridiculously closed water lines coming down from the north. Don't pour it onto the Pacific Ocean. Should be done immediately. California desperately needs water, and you can have it now. Yes, and I think Trump should not give any money to Gavin Newsom. Don't give money to people that are running their state into the absolute gutter, and because obviously it's just not going to help, right? People need to see on how bad they're being treated and how bad they're mismanaging it. Because how else? Because these governors, these Democrats, are getting bailouts by the government because for whatever reason, because to cover up their bad policies, their bad management. These people are not good. This is all Gavin Newsom's fault. Also, this is another thing too. We have this here. Los Angeles refused to fill the water reservoirs, and now there's no water to the fire hydrants to fight the fires. People are fleeing for their lives while watching their homes and businesses burn to the ground. This is incompetence at the highest level.
For covering this so well. Listen, it's a disaster to the 100th degree. It's beyond anything I think any of us could have ever imagined. But my heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods, so it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush mitigation program? I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, so what we have here is just something of complete incompetence, right? You have to blame Gavin Newsom because he was warned about this years ago by Donald Trump. They don't do it. And it's like the environmentalists never understand on what you have to do to prevent things. When you have a lot of brush, if you live anywhere in the forest at all, there are leaves or pine leaves or whatever or what have you that are on the ground. You gotta clear that up so it doesn't burn your entire place to the ground. Anybody that's living in the forest understands this. But of course the environmentalists are like, no, don't cut the trees. You gotta cut the dead trees so they don't burn everything to the ground. And of course, we have this here. It's from Colin Rugg saying, woman says her parents' fire insurance got canceled shortly before fires ripped through Southern California. The woman said she is forced to defend the house herself. They got canceled with the fire insurance. They're 90 years old. They lived in the house for 75 years, and they had the same insurance. And insurance people decided to cancel their fire insurance, and we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance. So thank you, California insurance companies. Now, this is not entirely on the fire insurance companies. I'm going to be perfectly honest here. You can't blame them because it's like you're just throwing money into the fire, quite literally, because the government will refuse to do anything, and expect fire insurance and insurance in general to skyrocket after this, because you cannot, they will not give you money. They will not insure you because of this. Blame your local leaders. Blame Gavin Newsom. Blame your mayor. They're the ones at fault here. Don't blame the fire insurance companies. It makes sense on why they wouldn't want to insure people that are living in a fire hazard that the government's not doing anything about it.
I know I'm not supposed to be here, but this is my parents' home.
I know the feeling.
And they just they got canceled from their fire insurance. So they're dealing with this. They're 90 years old. And through the state of California, because of this, they're 90 years old, that they've lived in this house for 75 years, and they've had the same insurance, and these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance.
Yeah, so like I said, I can't necessarily blame them. Of course, this is the LA fire chief, right? LA fire chief is hailed as the first female LGBTQ fire chief in Los Angeles. She says her priority is DEI. Here she waving a pride flag at a pride parade while dressed in uniform.
Chief Crowley is an openly gay woman now.
It took me a couple years. I wasn't sure, and this was when I was new on the job. I was very kind of mindful about my personal life.
Yeah, so this is the thing that she's doing here. This is what she is the most important, right? And of course, the add insult to injury, the last part of the video, the add insult to injury, Biden is set to announce another $500 million in handouts to Ukraine while California burns. Over 1,000 homes have been reduced to literal ash so far, and Joe Biden is once again proving he's America's last. Just absolutely disgusting.
Flying right over that thing.
Yeah, so this is a part of the course, and here's the fires that are all happening, the 3 fires that have started here. So it's probably going to get worse, and of course, Joe Biden doesn't care about America. He hates Americans. It's been quite obvious that he hates Americans. Whenever there's a tragedy, he'll give it to another country, specifically Ukraine, because that's his butt buddy in crime, and that just seems to be the case. So it's painful. It's painful. We had to stay with this guy for 12 more miserable days. I can't wait till he's gone. It's just it's absolutely horrible. Democrats have destroyed this country. They're destroying California, and you're seeing it right here in plain day. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Let's guys share. As always, take care, my friends.
I'm disgusted by what I see in public. Even people closest to us can't be trusted, because it's algorithmic disease, the social media.